Welcome back to the show. My special guest this week, Simon Pressley from Propertyology. The question I want to ask you, Simon, is there a formula? Is there a way to work out how much property we need to be able to retire comfortably?
There is. It's what I call a back of the beer coaster formula. It's what us financial gurus refer to as the 5% formula. Firstly, the individual needs to have a household discussion and describe the lifestyle that they would ideally like to live when they retire, and calculate all that as an annual income that they would need to support that lifestyle. If for argument's sake, if that lifestyle required $100,000 in today's money, the 5% rule means that you need $2 million net investments to generate that $100,000 income per year. So we just take $2 million net, multiply that by 5%, and that's how we get our 100K per annum. That is a net investment amount. So for a property investor, typically we've got property assets as well as property liabilities, our loans. So we need to subtract whatever the cumulative value of our liabilities are from the cumulative value of our investment properties to come up with, in this case, $2 million. And this is investment. So our family home, our debt-free family home, is over and above what our investments are, because even if our family home is debt-free, it doesn't generate a dollar of income in retirement. In fact, it would probably take $15,000 a year out of our pocket just to cover things like council rates, insurance, and some basic repairs and maintenance. So needless to say, not a lot of people retire with $2 million net investments, Kevin.
No, I'd say that that's pretty much the case, mate. I'm just wondering about COVID. Have we learnt any lessons from that?
Well, I would like to think we have. A lot of people, their retirement strategy, they really don't have one. They go to work, they earn whatever they earn in whatever occupation they choose, and then it's the accumulation of superannuation over the years, which is some money that the employer has to put aside, and they just hope that that's going to be enough. Well, it's never going to be enough unless you want to retire on baked beans. An age pension. The federal government mandate for a household couple, that's $30,000 per year. I don't know that you're going to get too much comfort from that. So, and what we know is that COVID really smashed share markets, haven't they? Globally, they've really been smashed from this. I know they bounced back a bit, but they're still a long way down from where they were back in March before the germ hit our shores. So I hope that this is a wake-up call for the Gen X's and Gen Y's. It's really no time left in the working life of the baby boomers if they were relying on their superannuation, which is largely the share market. There's really no time for them to recover. But I hope it would teach Gen X and Gen Y to become proactive. You really should be putting aside, I would just suggest, a minimum of 10% of whatever you earn, whatever income you earn each year. You need to set that aside and use that wisely for your future. That's over and above whatever superannuation money you accumulate.
Is that the basic principle you think that that everyone should follow, Simon?
Well, that's, I guess, some basic financial discipline. Now, in terms of some investment principles, property investors are very, very poor at following basic investment principles. I'd encourage all investors to think more, before you make all these really important decisions for your future, think about what a share investor might do. We've all heard that saying, never have all your eggs in the one basket. Something can come from left field and knock a big slice off the value of your investments if you put it all in the one basket. Share investors, for example, would not have all their shares in one company on the stock exchange. They'll have it in multiple companies on the stock exchange, and they will put it in different industry sectors as well as different companies. As a property investor myself, I have the same principles. The last place that I'll initially consider investing is the city that I live in. If I own a family home in a city, I've already got a lot of my capital tied up in that city. If something comes from left field and affects the property market of that city, and I've also got all my investment properties here, I've effectively put all my eggs in that one basket. So the comparable, what a property investor can do to sort of mirror what an astute share investor does, is to deliberately be picking locations with a critical eye all over Australia, all the other capital cities, all the regional parts of Australia, handpick individual cities, in a similar way to what a share investor will pick individual companies on the stock exchange. Another part of making it sustainable, small fish are sweeter. If we can bring up a graphic here, I'll illustrate what I'm talking about. Let's imagine we had access to $200,000 to invest. Now, for some people, that might be releasing some equity in their family home, accessing the $200,000 that way. For someone else, they might have been really diligent savers over the years, or got an inheritance, or a gift from parents, or whatever. But what a typical investor, let's say they live in Sydney, with that $200,000, they would buy a middle ring standard house in somewhere like Parramatta, and it would cost about $1 million, and their 200 grand is their 20% deposit. For that same $200,000, you can spread that over 3 completely different properties. So we're doing what the share investor does. We're not putting all our eggs in the one basket. We break that $200,000 up into 3 smaller deposits on 3 different valued properties in 3 completely different parts of the country. This graphic is actually what I personally did about 5 years ago. I bought a property in Cairns, I bought a property in Dubbo, I bought a property in Hobart. 3 different states, some capital cities, some regional cities, different economic drivers in each of those locations. They've all grown in value since then. Some have performed exceptionally well. Hobart's performed exceptionally well. Dubbo's had a similar rate of growth as what Brisbane has, and so have Cairns. My cash flow is completely different. These properties are cash flow neutral. We're still talking about cumulatively a 20% deposit. That one expensive property in Sydney has a cash flow shortfall of $20,000. And then when something comes from left field and adversely affects that all the eggs in the one basket location, which has happened in Sydney over the last 5 years, all of my capital is exposed to whatever that event was. Something could happen in one of the 3 other locations, but for it to affect all 3, given their completely different locations, you really would have been very unlucky for that to occur.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? The volatility of that Sydney market, and just, you know, while there may be some tremendous gains in the good times, there are some and I've got friends who, you know, had substantial property holdings in Sydney, and, you know, it's taken them decades to recover from that, and that was just one downturn. So, yeah, you're right. When you've got all your eggs in the one basket, it's very, very dangerous. Simon, thank you very much for that. Always very interesting. We're going to come back after this short break. Simon will stay with me, Simon Pressley from Propertyology, and we're going to have a look at just how wrong the COVID doomsayers got it, how badly wrong they got it. We'll give you the evidence. Back in just a moment.